right, I think we're good. Dana, you're taking the lead here.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to share your thing, or are we just going to start with intros?
We'll start with intros.
Perfect.
Hello there.
Hi. Alrighty, so this is the PathwayU Workshop. So thank you all for joining us today. So we're going to just start with a few introductions, and then we'll kind of get started with everything. So I am Dana Phillips. I am a licensed counselor. I work out of the University Counseling Center as well as the Career Center. I work with a lot of our exploratory students. So those thinking about changing their major, kind of unsure about their major, as well as just kind of maybe some uncertainty around career paths. So thank you all for joining us today.
And hello there. And if appropriate, we kindly ask if you can turn on your cameras. If not, if it isn't inappropriate, you don't have to. But thanks, Ryan. But you don't have to if you feel uncomfortable with that. So my name is Nick DeBernardi, pronouns he, him, his. I am a licensed psychologist, works in the counseling center, but I specialize with career decision making and career counseling. So I work with a lot of people who are figuring out what they want to do in life and kind of provide those resources and figuring those decisions out. So welcome.
Hey, hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Orlando. I'm an assistant director in the Career Center, and I mainly work with the allied health students and pre-med students, as well as the leads, adult learners, and the military and veteran students. So thank you all for taking the time today to learn more about PathwayU.
All right. Share my screen. Right, Dana?
Yes.
Whoops. Bear with me, y'all. All right.
Alrighty. So just a few Zoom norms, right? Yes, like Nick said, thank you all for those of you who have turned on your camera and able to keep it on. It's just nice too, just to see your faces. And since it's a smaller group, hopefully we can have a little bit more of a dialogue here today. Feel free to keep yourself muted. If you have some questions or comments, please feel free to put anything in the chat. We'll be kind of monitoring that, or feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself if you have some kind of questions or kind of comments that want to kind of come up throughout. We're hoping and we're committed to providing a really safe, welcoming, kind of respectful space here today. And so please be mindful of others as well. And so we don't want to have to remove anyone for any negative behaviors, but we just want to make sure people are kind of aware of that as well and the policies around that. So thanks so much. Again, please note that this is being recorded and it may be posted on the Career Center website. You can go to the next screen, Nick. So for check-in, Lisa probably just put in a link, and if you could take a moment to please check in. The great thing about it too is you will be entered to win a raffle prize. You'll kind of see here to the left-hand side, there's a nice little tech accessory prize. So please put in your information. We will contact winners via email. And we want to thank our prize sponsor, Consolidated Electrical Distributors. And if you experience any technical difficulties here today, we have a number here that you can kind of contact, as well as email us at careers@gvsu.edu. If there's anything really immediate though, feel free to put it in the chat and maybe we can kind of problem solve it on the spot for you all. Alrighty, and so we will kind of get started here.
All right, so the first question I have for you all is, what is hard about picking a career? What would you say? You can jump on in, you can type it in chat. Anybody? Maybe? Nobody?
There's no right or wrong things.
Okay.
Oh, wait, here, we got somebody. Thank you, Ellis. You could change your mind later on.
Ah, right. The idea of like, okay, so I pick something and then I could maybe want to change my mind later on. Absolutely, right? What else makes picking a career kind of difficult?
Feel free to unmute yourself too if you prefer to just kind of speak out instead of using chat.
I was gonna say, finding something that provides you long-term happiness and fulfillment without getting burned out.
Yeah. So the idea of something that will provide that long-lasting passion, right, and sense of purpose, and the burnout is real, right? And that can be hard. So here you are trying to figure out your entire life, and you're not sure if that's going to last the entire time. Absolutely. What else? Anything else? Thank you, Ryan, for jumping in. And I forget who else commented, but thank you. Okay. Alice, thank you. Okay.
Oh, we have another comment too. Zach said, deciding what skills to focus on developing and comparing them against your interests and the need to make money.
Okay. You said a lot there. Let me bring that up. I can't see the chat.
Okay.
All right. So I think you mentioned comparing your interests, right? Could you say that again, Dana? Sorry.
Sure, yeah, deciding what skills to focus on developing and then comparing that against your interests and the need to make money.
Very good. So you actually hit three of the main things that you want to be aware of. So you talked about skills, interests, and what we would call values, right? That would be value would be income level, right? And what a really hard part, like you just mentioned, is okay, so you have all these three, and how do they compete, or how do they fit together? That's an excellent question, right? And how do you go about? Now, what are some strategies that you have used to help you find your path? Anybody? Maybe.
Thanks, Lisa. Networking.
Okay. Networking, very good, right? Meeting people, talking to people.
Getting involved in that area. So maybe the industry or something like that.
Getting some experience. Absolutely, right? So you can get some experience. Anybody else? Kind of what are some strategies that you found?
Strengths Quest, other assessments, and the Career Center.
I like it. Yeah, I'm very focused. I work a lot with the career assessments. So Strengths Quest, which is now called the Strengths Finder, and some other assessments. Absolutely. Anybody else want to jump in there?
Spending time in self-reflection.
Getting to know yourself, right? Absolutely. You got to know yourself. All right, great. Thank you all. Absolutely. You all hit some really important parts of some common kind of like pitfalls and also strategies that are absolutely very important. We just want to highlight a couple of the pitfalls that come up often. So lack of knowing yourself. So the idea of who am I? What are my strengths? What are my skills? What are my interests? What are my values? Like that really helps us make a decision. And so if you're struggling with making a decision and figuring out how to go, that could be an area that you can build up to help kind of determine kind of what to do next, right? Then you have this lack of world of work knowledge, right? So we may have an idea of what a career is, but what's it look like when we're really in that world of work? So that can be really hard. General indecisiveness. Does anybody have a hard time making a decision? Thanks, Ryan. I see that. Anybody else?
Yes, definitely. I hear other people.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Yes. So if we have a hard time figuring out where to go to eat in the evening, picking out a career could be a little stressful for us, right? So the idea of just general indecisiveness, and then also career indecision. That's a separate construct, but we just want to acknowledge that can be really hard. Career decision making. So how do we make decisions, right? When we make decisions to go out in the evening, like if we want to go out to a restaurant or something like that, maybe in different times, obviously, but the idea of what do we take into account? It's very similar to, how do we follow these career decision making formulas that will help us? External conflicts. So these could be things that we're facing pressure from, right? Or things that we want to do, but then we get other advice or maybe other things that are going on that are externally from us that are impacting our career decision. And then tying into the last one, lack of experience, right? It's really hard to figure out what you want to do when maybe you haven't experienced that. It really kind of ties into world of work and knowledge, but that lack of experience can be really hard. Okay. So those are just some, a brief intro into some pitfalls, kind of what are some common characteristics. Now, I'd like you all to kind of look at this next graph for me. Okay. All right, so this is the career development model. Okay. So these interact with one another, but it kind of ties into like how you can kind of understand the next steps and how you go about it. So the first step, know yourself. You know, that's where you do a lot of the career assessments, things like that. From that helps you tie into what are your options, right? So you take all those parts of yourself and you tie them into different career paths or career clusters, I would say. So that's where you'll do some occupational research, look at industries, career options. So you'll look at your majors, right? Then once you get that information, then you have to get focused or you have to make a decision, right? You know, how does that look? And that's where you start that decision-making process happens. If you decide to move on from there, then you go into take action. That's when you connect with employers, job search tools, gain experience, a lot of that career planning. So I would like everybody either in chat, you can jump in chat real quick. Where do you see yourself on this continuum, on this kind of journey? Are you in the know yourself part, exploring your options, the decision making or get focused? Or do you feel like you're at that take action with connect with employers, job search tools, and things like that? Brian, if you just want to
Yeah,
say what it is,
feel
you
free.
can.
Okay. I would say I'm in the explore options / get focused part. It's hard to say like which one I'm more in, but I would have to say kind of in between the two, I would say.
Good.
Definitely one of those two.
Glad you said that because it can be in between, right?
Okay.
And we can they can interact with each other. Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Dana?
Yeah, and then in the chat, it looks like Zach said, between knowing myself and exploring options. Madison says, know yourself. And then Ellis said, take action.
All right.
Kind of got everyone in all four.
Okay. Yeah. So the idea of that's a really good place to know kind of where am I at in this journey and what kind of resources and things like that would be helpful for me right now. Now, the good news is PathwayU can connect with all these different aspects, and it just depends on how you use it and what you're going to be looking at, right? We will talk about that in just a sec, but I will say that in PathwayU, you do start with all the career assessments, so it's vital that you do all the assessments. But I'll let Dana jump in there. Sorry, Dana.
Yeah. So PathwayU, has anybody heard of this assessment previously or even taken it perhaps? Thinking no, maybe. So great. I think this might be a new resource. It's new for us. This is brand new this year. But it's a nice free tool that is available to all of you. You can kind of go on and create your own free accounts. And it's pretty quick. So I think that's something we always want to stress. We all know that we're kind of strapped for time these days. And so we always want to stress that this is probably like 15, 20 minutes for you to create an account and then take these 4 assessments. And then you can obviously spend a little bit more time using the resource to kind of explore some different options. But yeah, like Nick said, right? So this is really great for any kind of stage that you might be in as far as the career development model. But at the very beginning, especially for those of you who mentioned being in the kind of know yourself stage, it's going to be really helpful. So you'll take these 4 assessments. They're on interest, values, personality, and workplace preferences. And you'll kind of get some summarized results for each of them. But then what is nice is that what will pop up from there are different career matches that you can kind of start exploring, as well as majors that you can kind of start exploring, kind of generally speaking, but we also do link it back to GVSU programs that you can kind of research specifically. So it's kind of nice because you can kind of take it and then get some really like quick results that you can kind of start exploring on your own prior to even meeting with any of us in the Career Center, which I think is kind of helpful. So especially for those who are in the kind of know yourself, then these are kind of the foundational pieces, right? That you can kind of better understand how those pieces kind of connect to you and how they kind of match to certain majors and careers. So once you take the 4, you'll kind of see this graph here too. We sort of tried to create just a little bit of a timeline here and how this might prompt you. So here to the right, you kind of see a couple, just a sample of what these kind of career matches might look like, right? So it's nice because it'll give you industry specific things, but it'll also give you very specific job titles. And you'll notice here on this one, it kind of has these kind of very strong match, it says, but it kind of ranges. So it will say, you know, very strong, strong, good, fair, weak, right? And so that's kind of a nice gauge for you based upon how you answered those assessments. That's kind of saying, hey, based upon these things, right? Here's some strong matches. Here's maybe some ones that just don't seem as connected to your results, right? So it's also just a nice way to take something that feels really kind of like big and overwhelming at times. I think Nick and I often work with students where it's like, you know, there's millions of careers, there's hundreds of majors at GV, right? It feels really overwhelming to kind of sift through all of that. This will kind of get you to a little bit more of a narrowed kind of idea, right? In a list that you can kind of really connect to some of that. And then from there, I think a really unique feature, and we'll pull this up too, or Nick will pull this up just to kind of show you a little bit of an example, but is it will give you some really realistic job leads. So it does connect to Handshake, which is our kind of platform that we use here at Grand Valley, but it also can connect to Indeed.com. So a lot of you might be familiar with that as well. And again, it's kind of getting to give you that same sort of gauge, right? Here's a strong match, here's a fair one, here's weak, right? Based upon your assessments. But it's nice because it gives you like real world job opportunities that are out there right now that you could apply to or that you could explore, and how that kind of matches up. Because I think sometimes too, it's really hard to picture a certain major and what career that might lead to. And so these kind of give you very concrete examples, which I think is really nice as you're kind of exploring some different things. And then you can read about them, right? Like, for example, like what is a marketing intern? And you can kind of explore what actually that entails and whether that seems like it's a good fit for you. So it's really user friendly. It's kind of self-guided. So I think for most students, we've had some pretty good feedback. It's pretty easy to kind of navigate on your own and kind of go through some of these steps. And there are a lot of other like self-guided resources on PathwayU's website and like workbooks and things like that that you can kind of go through as well. So yeah, we definitely recommend if you have not already to kind of go on and create the free account because you can really sort of use that in any stage that you might be in. And then Nick can kind of bring it up just to show you a little bit more what that kind of looks like on the site specifically.
Right.
Any questions though about PathwayU that kind of jump out to you?
Hold on real quick, y'all. I'm having a little difficulty. Why isn't it letting me share that screen? Okay, hold on real quick. Do this one more time.
You want me to share mine? Or
let me try it one more time here. And yeah. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So this is kind of you saw the snapshot, right? But this, when you first log in, you'll see a My Journey, right? And it'll kind of walk you through just some basic steps that you can go through. It looks like Lisa's a little frozen there. That you can go through the outline of what you can do it, and how to use this. I always like to preface the idea of there's not one assessment or one tool that will find all the answers for you. The idea that I want to put in your head is not to feel stuck, right? That's what these things are helping you feel, is where you keep moving forward. So if you look at these assessments, right, it gives you some reflection questions to help you process the information. You can go into your interests, values, personality, workplace preferences. You also have this My Purpose, so where you're looking at like seeking purpose, presence of purpose, and things like that. Purpose is really related to career satisfaction in the long run, so it's really helpful. If you ever need help, there's a wonderful button here that if you want to go over your results with us, you can just schedule an appointment with a career advisor or one of our career counselors. There are worksheets that will help you walk through everything. Okay, so down here, there's the workbook, there's the career match exercise. So when you're really trying to connect your results with like practical things, this can help you think about how to better understand that. This is the career piece, that career matches by subject, right? We already kind of talked about that, but this is kind of how it comes up. Okay. You can look at all the careers instead of the ones that matched. And when you click on these, for example, you can look at programs. Okay, so if you wanted to look at skincare specialists, I don't know who's on board with that, but here we go, right? You can look at definite programs that will help you explore that, and that's not coming up, so I don't know why that is. So hopefully it will come up when you do it. And it looks like, okay, so yep, I think that's the end of my, okay. Lisa, you're muted.
I just wanted to say that I saw the catalog. It did, yeah, it did bring it up.
Okay, so, and here's the job board that you can do, and then again, some tools, okay? Pretty easy, really easy to self-navigate, but we always like to share that and show you. Okay, let me pull up this. All right.
Like Nick said too, if you ever have any questions, right, it is pretty easy to navigate, but I think sometimes through that, like it prompts some other questions for students. So feel free, you can always make an appointment with Nick, myself, or anyone else in the Career Center. We can kind of go over those results specifically with you if you had some other questions as you kind of are processing and kind of reflecting and sorting through all that. So feel free to, you can definitely do some one-on-one stuff with us as well. And so we also just wanted to kind of share some other resources with you because, right, I think like Nick said, a lot of these things are just to kind of help you sort of process no matter what kind of stage that you're in. And so especially for those of you who might be in the exploring options through the taking action kind of phase, these are some really good ones we'd like to point out. So Career Guides by Major is a great resource. So if you're not familiar with that, we'll kind of pull that up here.
Hold on. Having a little trouble, y'all.
Maybe we should have practiced this seamless transitions that
Yo, this worked last time we did this. I don't know what's the.
It's okay.
Okay.
There you go.
And now I can't see this because it's.
I think you just got to tab over to the Career Guides tab.
Yep, it's not letting me.
I see your handshake.
I know, but there we go. All right.
There we go. I don't know if have any of y'all seen the Career Guides before? I've seen a shaker. No. Okay. Perfect. Then.
I just dropped the link in the chat. So if they want to follow, they can copy and paste that.
Thank you, Lisa.
As well as with the ONET.
We appreciate that. Yeah, so feel free to bookmark that for yourself too. So these are really great. Career advisors kind of designed all of these based upon the majors that they kind of specifically work with. So there's basically one for every major. So for instance, Nick, do you just want to click on one of them? Right, so communications, right? And so what you're gonna kind of get is a really kind of easy sort of one-stop guide for you all. So the beginning part is sort of just giving you a brief snapshot of where some students have interned at when they've been in this major, right? So that can kind of generate some different ideas. Are those places that, hey, that might be some place I might be interested in also interning or working at. Then we also kind of lead into where some alumni have landed. So what are actual job titles or places that people have worked at or found work at, which I think is helpful because I think a really common question we often hear probably across all of our counselors or advisors is like, what do I do? What can I do with this major, right? Is really common. And so this is just helpful to give you, again, a brief kind of idea list of just job titles you could start exploring and places you could explore. Student orgs. So we always are encouraging students, right? You are more than your major. So getting involved in any way can be really helpful to not only explore a little bit more about kind of likes, dislikes, but also just, right, it helps you to learn more about you, right? And so you can connect to peers, you can connect to especially with some of the clubs that are probably more major specific. You can connect to peers probably within those programs, maybe connect to upperclassmen, things like that, where you can, right, get some other feedback and knowledge from them, which is helpful. They're also really great resume builders. Study abroad. So if study abroad is everything that you've ever thought about, and hopefully study abroad will be back in the near future, but it doesn't hurt to just explore that. There's a really awesome study abroad opportunities within each major. And so we kind of help you link to directly to some of those programs and offerings. The next is sort of just a list of some different competencies or skills that you might be developing or consider developing as you kind of go through that major career path. There's also some links to grad or professional school programs. And then at the bottom, there's some other really great resources. Candid Career is a really awesome resource. If you haven't heard of it, or it's really great for looking at some really short video clips. So if you're ever kind of wondering, hey, what does a marketing manager, right? You could probably find a video of a professional who's in that career, who just has some brief, like 2-minute videos that you can kind of watch on your own time. And that it gives you just an idea of what do they do, what do they like, what are some of their challenges in their jobs. And that's kind of what we call informational interviewing, right? If you can find somebody in the profession that's doing something that you're actually are interested in, that can be always really helpful. And Candid Career is just a nice kind of beginning step to watch some videos about that. And then at the bottom, you'll kind of see we are linking you to some other different areas. So we're always going to tell you who your career advisor would be. So everybody does have a career advisor based upon your major. Where Lisa kind of mentioned she works a lot with like health sciences, right? Lisa Knapp works with all the College of Liberal Arts and Science majors. We also lead you to the Class Academic Advising Center. So the advising center that would work with that major if you had like schedule or class questions. We link you to the curriculum guides, right? Which are those sort of sheets that, right, just kind of explain all the classes that you'd have to take and that would be required for that major. And then we kind of link you also to the department website as well. So again, there's a wealth of resources within each career guide. And so we would encourage you, as you're kind of taking your results from PathwayU or something like that, then these are really great guides to just kind of further that exploration of some of these different ideas that you're considering. Any questions or anything else any of you wanted to add? Nick or Lisa, feel free.
Yeah, I just the reason why we bring this up is career assessments are fun, right? They're interactive, they tell us about ourselves, they connect to careers, but really where the work is that research piece, right? So we're showing this because once you get a good understanding of you and you start exploring these things, this is where the work is. Like you need to do the research, right? And we can help you kind of get connected to that, but we're just showing you those things of you take PathwayU, right? And then you go over here and you start exploring these resources. So that's really why we're highlighting these.
And there was a question in the chat, is career advising and exploration through the Career Center, like appointments and such, is that still open to alumni? And yes, the answer is we are here, and in the Career Center, we say visit us early and visit us often. So that goes for alumni as well.
Absolutely. Great question.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and all the assessments are still open as well. This particular page is just sort of Grand Valley's kind of very comprehensive search on all the majors, all the grad programs, all the certificates and badges that are now offered. So as you're maybe creating a list of maybe majors that you're kind of considering or exploring, these are really great ways that you can kind of connect to their department websites, curriculum guides as well. So that is that resource. ONET is another great resource, and I believe Lisa put the link to this as well. So right, when we come across certain careers, sometimes we are like, I don't even know what that career is, right? So there are plenty of careers that people have thrown out to me and I'm like, I have zero idea what those people do, right? So if you come across that as well in your own research, then ONET is a really great tool. You can type in, like Nick did, kind of a keyword or a job title, and it should kind of link you up to a very comprehensive like summary of what they do, right? Skills, knowledge required. You can also take your interest results too. So it is kind of coded, right? And you kind of see maybe you're high on social or artistic, let's say. And at the very kind of bottom here, it will tell you based upon that particular career, like what somebody might be really high in if they were to like that field. So for speech language, they're saying, hey, if you were high in social, investigative, and artistic, you might really like that career too. So it also gives you some really good links to some other relevant careers. So if you kind of go through this and you're like, I don't think speech language is really for me, these would be some other relevant jobs that you can kind of start exploring. And then labor market information, right? We always hear, I want to make a lot of money, or what kind of outlook is this going to have for me? Is this a high growth career? This is where you can kind of find some of that information. It gives you some national data, but then you can kind of do some state specific stuff. So if you plan on staying in Michigan, you can put in that. If you know you're going to move or want to move, you might explore and see what it might look like in a different state, if that's something you're thinking about. And then at the bottom too, there's always kind of some professional orgs that they're going to link you to, which are also really helpful, really direct websites too, that if this is something you're interested in, you might find a lot of other information from those kind of orgs too. And then US 102. So for those of you who are still current students, that US 102 is a 1 credit kind of career education exploration class. Nick, I, and several other advisors across the university facilitate these. And we go through not only PathwayU, but we go through a lot of the more in-depth career assessments. So we use Strong, Strengths, MBTI, and we just kind of have some really intentional kind of class discussions around really this whole process, right? Career development, exploration, how do you research, how do you get connected, and the different ways that you might go through that, right? So going to career events, talking to people, right? And so there's a lot of different activities that we kind of get you involved in as part of that kind of process and that journey to kind of explore yourself, as well as to learn more about careers and majors. So yeah. Any questions about any of the resources that we've kind of talked about? We've kind of thrown a lot of different things at you, so I want to make sure we give pause here if any of you all have like very specific questions too.
I kind of have a question. So I made my PathwayU account today, and I like did all the assessments and all that. And I'm just wondering like what a good next step would be, because it's like it gave me a lot of really good information, but I guess I'm like, I mean, overwhelmed in the best possible way, like because there's so much good information. And I kind of started going through like possible careers and stuff, and I'm just wondering like what a good next step is after doing the assessments. Like, where's a good place to start?
Sure, great question. Yeah, Nick, feel free to start.
So I think that the answer will depend on what you're feeling right now, right?
Okay.
So depending on your results, if you're like, okay, this is great information, but I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, right? You can meet, that may be a good time to meet with one-on-one with one of us to kind of help filter, sift through it, kind of figure out what's going on, and kind of make some career decisions and figure out how are we going to best use this information, right? The other thing is you can take a look at the worksheets, right? And those reflection questions that can really help. If you feel like, oh, I haven't really looked into these, so you know yourself, you connect that with careers or majors, right? And then you research those careers or majors. It's basically following a lead. If you hit a roadblock, or if that lead goes cold, then you kind of come back and you start over, right? But if you feel like that lead, you're not really sure where to go, you can always make an appointment. But I would say pick like 1 or 2 careers or pathways that are coming up and move forward and start researching those. You know, do the career guides by major, maybe. You can use ONET, you can go Google, or you can talk to a career advisor who specifically works in targeted industries that will have a wealth of information. So it really depends on what it feels like afterwards. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Great question, though. Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
I agree with everything that that Nick kind of said about just some different steps that you'd want to do. And especially too, I think what is helpful too for some students as you're creating lists of different things, I think we always recommend too, like rank it naturally in how you're feeling in that moment. So even before you get started with any research, like kind of what is your gut maybe telling you, and make like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? I think it gives you a really concrete place to start so that you don't feel as overwhelmed and you just start with your number 1, right? And then you kind of go through all these different ways to research the tools, talk to people, right? And then at the end of it, as you kind of go through your list, you're basically, right, things are staying on the list or you're crossing things off, right? And that's how you kind of keep going to the next stage too, right? Then you maybe re-rank things. Did anything kind of, did something pop to the top or not? And that might inform you of some next steps too. Like, okay, I really did like this. Maybe I'm going to now talk to the career advisor who works with that major in that career path, right?
Yeah.
Find some connections, right? To then kind of keep furthering. So it is kind of that time consuming part that kind of Nick mentioned. It is, we totally understand that and feel like, gosh, wouldn't it be just easy if I could take this assessment and like my career would be here waiting for me? But it does just take a little bit of time, and so I think too, setting yourself up to the idea, like it's just going to take a little bit of time and a little bit of research too. But any other questions that are kind of coming up for anybody? I don't want to miss anything. Okay. Then we just briefly wanted to services that we're still offering here with the Career Center. So we have Virtual Career Lab. This is basically what you can equate to our drop-in time. So we are available Monday through Friday. You can kind of see our different hours, as well as we're also open on Sundays from 5 to 8 p.m. Just to kind of help people, right, if they're kind of busy, tied up throughout the week. So that's a place where you can it's really casual. You can have career questions, get your resume reviewed, cover letters, just kind of consult with staff as needed. Handshake, right? So a lot of you, if you aren't on Handshake, we'd encourage you to kind of start using Handshake, fill out your profile. You can use it to search for jobs. You can use it to research employers. You can use it obviously to schedule appointments with any one of us in the Career Center. And it's also the place where you can kind of register or learn about any upcoming kind of career fairs or events or employer sponsored events that will be happening. We are also still offering remote appointments. So most of those are being done via phone or Zoom. And so please, again, you can log on to Handshake and make that appointment. If you're having any difficulties with that at all, though, feel free, you can call our Career Center as well, and they can get you set up with that too. And then e-resume reviews is also something that's happening. So you can email your resume or cover letter to careers@gvsu.edu. Include your name, major, how you want to use that resume, and then your specific career advisor would kind of be working on providing some feedback and trying to get that back to you within 3 business days. So that might be easy for some people if you're not able to kind of do a one-to-one appointment. So just letting you know some options, and Nick can kind of talk about a few upcoming sessions that will be happening.
So as you talk about kind of career decision making, one thing that's really important is to kind of look at events and kind of go to things. The more you go to and more information you can gather, the more likely you are to make a decision, right? The brain needs information to make a decision. That's what we usually kind of showcase. People try to make decisions based on limited amount of information, either about yourself or careers. And so we just wanted to highlight a couple upcoming sessions. We have practice interviews on March 12th, student employment March 12th, basic budgeting on March 15th, navigating interviews in a virtual space. I believe it says space, but yep. March 16th, March 17th, understanding the job offer, and March 18th. I want to stress this: virtual career fair. Doesn't matter where you're at in this process, talking to employers about potential options is really helpful, right? And we prep our employers to know that they may get people who are just exploring, right? So you can go and you can talk to somebody that's hiring and talk to them about potential positions, or just to learn, right? Be like, this is what I'm interested. What does your company do? And things of that nature. I'm saying that right, Lisa, right? Okay.
Yeah, we highly encourage everybody the opportunity to have this one-on-one time with the employers. We have over 96 employers that will be attending the virtual career fair. And that career fair will be on a platform called Career Fair Plus. So we do have some sessions about how to create your profile in Career Fair Plus. And it's very similar to LinkedIn, and that will get you into the event. And then you could go through the list of employers and see the times that they're available and schedule those one-on-one interviews or conversations with employers that you want to learn more about.
Thank you. Yes, it's a great, I highly recommend wherever you're at in the process, it can be really helpful. All right. There's also our conference full list of the events, so feel free to check those out. They'll still be ongoing. So
I dropped that link in the chat as well.
Perfect. Lisa's on top of it.
And then I'm going to drop that.
Okay, and then this is the last one. Make sure you check in so you can potentially win a prize. Looks like some cool stuff. So just wanted to make sure you do that check-in, please, and follow that link. And I think that is it. Oh, a quick thanks to our prize package sponsor. Dana, was this you? Okay. Yes. So Lisa, do you want to jump in here and do this one?
Oh, I just went ahead and put that in the chat.
Okay.
Consolidated Electrical Distributors, they were our sponsor for the Career Work Like a Laker conference, and they're the ones who provided the prizes and the tech prizes. So a lot of really cool
So a
tech
big shout out
things.
to them.
Yeah.
Hopefully you all win and check in. So, all right. So it looks like we're coming to the end. Any questions? I just want to reiterate the main point here is to introduce the idea of PathwayU. Now, PathwayU on itself can be a great tool. I hope you learned a little bit about PathwayU and some other resources that will help you on your way. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us, okay?
Yeah, I believe Lisa put our contact info there.
Yep.
So yeah, feel free to contact us or connect with us through Handshake. Be happy to kind of talk more with you all one-on-one too.
So we really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. We do hope it was helpful and you learned something or that you took something of note. So if that is it, if we don't have any other questions, you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you.